Hi, sorry I can't be with you again. Today I'm going to teach you how to factorize more difficult quadratic expressions where instead of just 1x squared, you've got 2x squared or 3x squared or 4x squared. It is more difficult. I'll show you why, because we'll remove a couple of the brackets here. There isn't a quick way of removing these brackets, you'll find. So for example, with the first one here, 2x squared, so 2x plus 3 times x plus 7, we do 2x times x, so that's just 2x squared. We do 2x times 7, so that's 14x. 3 times x is 3x, obviously, and 3 times 7 is 21. Okay, now it's collecting the middle two together. You've got 2x squared plus 17x plus 21. And you can see that team doesn't work. The two numbers on the end do times to make 21. 3 times 7 is 21, but if you add 3 and 7 you get 10, and clearly the middle term there is not 10x, it's 17x. Okay, just having a look at another one. I'll just do a couple of these. So x times 3x, so that's 3x squared. X times minus 2, well, minus 2x. Minus 5 times 3x is minus 15x. Minus 5 times minus 2 is plus 10, giving us 3x squared minus 17x plus 10. Okay, now again, the multiplying bit works. Times to make the end, yes, minus 5 times minus 2 is 10, but minus 5 add minus 2 would be minus 7, and the middle term isn't minus 7x. So team doesn't work. Notice though, some of what you've been doing up until now works, and I'll show you sort of one of the ways of removing the brackets. It's a very personal thing, factorising in this way. Some of you will be able to just do these pretty well in your head with a bit of practice. Some of you, I'm going to show you a method which I call the crisscross method. It's quite a nice way that works pretty well every time. So there's no real pattern, and this is definitely more difficult factorisation. Let's have a look at factorising. Okay, so here are three quadratic expressions. So remember, these have got 2x squared, 3x squared, 5x squared. If it's just x squared at the beginning, you can use team. Times to make the end, add to make the middle. If not, you're going to have to think a little bit harder. Okay, so let's have a look at these ones. We know these are going to factorise to two brackets. Always check, by the way, there's no common factor. You've got 2, 23, 45. There's no number that goes into 2, 23 and 45 apart from 1. Now, you can figure out what goes at the beginning of each bracket. You know that the x terms are going to be on the left, and we're trying to get 2x squared. Now, the only way to do that is by doing 2x and x in the two different brackets. Okay, right. If we look at the numbers on the end, we know that the two numbers on the end will multiply together to make 45. Okay, so let's just have a guess. Let's say we've got 9 here, and 5 here. Okay, 9 times 5 is 45. Could also be 45 and 1. Obviously, I'm going to try 5 and 9. Okay, I'm going to just see if it's going to work. I know the 2x squared is going to work because 2x times x is 2x squared. I know the 45 is going to work because 9 times 5 is 45. Everything's positive in this case, so I'm just going to do plus and plus. How am I going to see whether I've got the right number of x's? Well, if you think about it, the x term comes from doing these two multiplied together and also these two multiplied together. So 2x times 5 would give us 10x. 9 times x gives us 9x. And if we were to add those two together, it's not going to work because 10x plus 9x is 19x. We want 23x. Okay, so that's not going to work. Let's try something else. Maybe it's not 9 there. Maybe the 9 and the 5 are the other way around. Let's have a look at that. Okay, so let's put the 5 there this time, and let's put the 9 there. Okay, so we know we're going to get our 2x squared. We know we've got the 45. Again, we need to check this middle one. Okay, so if we do 2x times 9, well, that's 18x. If we do the 5 times x in the middle, that's 5x. And that is going to work because 18x plus 5x, that is 23x, so it works. So with a bit of trial and error, we've got there. Let's try another one. Okay, so 3x squared plus 23x plus 14. Okay, it's got to be 3x and x. Okay, that's the only way we're going to be able to make 3x squared. For 14, okay, well, I'm going to try 7 and 2. Let's do 7 there and 2 there. I don't really know where they're going to go, but let's have a go. Right, the x term in the middle comes from timesing these two. 3x times 2, well, that's 6x. And then timesing these two, well, that's 7x. Do those add up to 23x? No, they don't. Okay, so that doesn't work. Maybe let's try swapping the 7 and the 2. So let's put the 2 with the 3x. Let's have that there. And let's have the 7 there. Let's see if that works. If 2 and 7 don't work, then I'm going to have to try 1 and 14. So let's try that. And it's both going to be plus. Well, 7 times 3x, that's 21x. 2 times x is 2x. If I add 2x and 21x, yes, I do get 23x. So that now works. Everything else works, so that is correctly factorized. Okay, let's try a third one. Now you can see with positive numbers, it's not too bad. It's going to get worse when there are negative numbers. So I will show you an alternative method in a minute. Okay, one more. This is going to be for the people who just like to use a bit of trial and error. Basically, it's a good idea to use pencil and paper. Whiteboards are good for this because you can rub them out as you go along. Try other numbers. Don't lose the plot of which ones you've tried, though. Now, for 5x squared, it's got to be 5x and x. For 40, don't know, let's try 8 and 5, 10 and 4. Let's try 10 and 4. Okay, right. Multiplying those two, that's 10x. Multiplying those two, well, 5x times 4, that's 20x. That clearly doesn't add up to 54x. Could try the 10 and the, let's try them the other way around. Let's have 4 there and 10 there. Let's see if that works. I'm beginning to see that might work actually. Okay, so again, plus plus. So we've got 4x there. We've got 5 times 10x, well, that's 50x. And those two add up to 54x, so that's correctly factorized. Now you can see this would take quite a long time when you've got negatives. I could have, with that last one, started off with 8 and 5, and then it would have taken me a lot longer. Luckily, I guessed 4 and 10. Let me show you an alternative way of doing it, which you might like. Okay, I call this method the crisscross method, and you'll see why in a minute. It is still trial and error, but it's a kind of slightly more organized trial and error. And as I go along, actually, I will tell you that there are certain things that help. Okay, so the crisscross method works like this. First of all, look at the number of x squared and write underneath each other two numbers that multiply together to make the number of x squared. In this case, 2x squared, the only way of making 2 is by doing 2 times 1. Don't forget, write them one underneath the other. The next thing that you look at is the number on the right, which is the 3. And you write down two numbers that multiply together to make 3. Well, fairly obvious, it can only be 3 and 1 or 1 and 3. Okay. Now, the reason this is called the crisscross method is this. What you now do is you multiply the 2 by the 1, that gives you 2, and you do the 1 times the 3, and that's 3. And you add those two numbers together. So here, 2 plus 3 is 5. Now, if the numbers that you add up to the middle number, then you've factorized. In this case, they don't, so I'm not going to go any further. So let's try something else. Let's try 2 and 1, because 2 1s are 2. For 3, I'm going to swap the 1 and the 3 over. Okay, again, crisscross. 2 3s are 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 6 and 1 is equal to 7. And that's what we want. The middle number is a 7. Now, the way this works is quite clever. To find the numbers that you want, basically, the top two numbers give you the numbers in one of your brackets. The bottom two numbers here give you the numbers in your other bracket. So in this case, we have got in the first bracket 2x plus 1, because those ones I've highlighted in yellow, 2 and 1. The other bracket will be 1x plus 3, and there's your factorized version. Now, the nice thing about the crisscross method is you keep track of the things that you've tried, which actually is quite useful. Okay, let's have a look at another example, see if you get that. Okay, so here we go. We're going to factorize 3x squared plus 5x plus 2. So start with the 3, two numbers that multiply to make 3, 3 and 1. Then move to the 2, two numbers that multiply together to make 2. I'm going to go for 2 and 1. Okay, right, 3 times 1 is 3, 1 times 2 is 2, 3 plus 2 does equal 5, the middle number. So I've got it. Those are my two brackets. So the top two numbers, here we go, the 3 and the 2, tell me that one of my brackets is going to be 3x plus 2, and the other two numbers, the 1 and the 1, tell me that my other bracket is going to be 1x plus 1. And there it is. I've done it. Okay, let's try another one. Okay, 6x squared. Now this is already going to be more difficult. 6x squared, I've got a choice of numbers that multiply together to make 6. I could choose 6 and 1, or I could choose 3 and 2. Word of advice, normally go for the numbers which are nearer each other. It's just more likely to be correct. I could be wrong, but most of the time, more likely. Okay, so 3 2s are 6, then go to the 2 on the right, two numbers that times together to make 2, but I'm going to go for 2 and 1. Okay, let's do. 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 2 is 4. If we add 3 and 4, well, 3 and 4 is 7. That's correct. So my two brackets, one of the brackets comes from there. So that's 3x plus 2. My other bracket comes from those two numbers. So that's 2x plus 1. And there we have it. Okay, let's try another one. Notice I haven't introduced you to any negative numbers yet. We'll just do positive numbers together. Okay, so 4, two numbers that multiply to make 4. Let's start with 2 and 2. Two numbers that multiply together to make 6. Like I said, you could choose 6 and 1 or 2 and 3. I'm going to go for 2 and 3. Choose the ones that are closer together first. I could be wrong. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 2 is 4. And 6 plus 4 does not equal 11. So let's try something else. I can see here that even if I were to swap over the 3 and the 2, it's still going to give me 6 and 4. So I must have guessed wrong. So instead of 2 and 2, let's try 4 and 1. I'm going to stick with 2 and 3 for 6. Okay, let's try that. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 2 is 2. 12 and 2, still doesn't work. Okay, let's swap them over. Stick with the 4 and 1. Let's try 3 and 2 this time. Make sure you keep a system going, if you like. Don't try and jump, don't try and change too many things. Notice I kept the 4 and the 1, just switch the 3 and the 2. Okay, 4 times 2 is 8. 1 times 3 is 3. Aha, 8 plus 3 is 11. That's what we want because we've got 11 in the middle. So my two brackets are going to be, so the 4 and the 3 tell me that one of my brackets is 4x plus 3. And the 1 and the 2 tell me that my other bracket is going to be 1x, or just x, plus 2. And there it is. Okay, let's see. I think I go on to minuses next. Let's leave minuses until next time. Have a go now at practicing factorising this type. You can either use the crisscross method or you can use trial and error, but you must check that you get that correct middle term, whether you do it by trial and error or whether you use crisscross. I prefer crisscross just because it's a systematic way of doing things. Okay, let's stop there.